Hello, everyone, and you are welcome back to Helena's Corner. I'm going to say again, Happy New Year to everyone. This is actually the very first video I am making for this year. Thank you, everyone, for joining, and thank you to all my subscribers. And of course, thank you to those that are yet to subscribe as well. You are welcome back to Helena's Corner. So we're going to just get right to it, all right? Today we're talking about gentle parenting, and it's just a misconception that has been around, people saying that gentle parenting is passive parenting. Gentle parenting is not passive parenting. And what I'm going to be talking about specifically is setting boundaries without shouting. So let's get right into it. So today's video, of course, is for parents that are exhausted, confused, or maybe even feel guilty and wondering if they're actually parenting their children the right way. Yeah, I'm sure you've heard about gentle parenting, but in real life, sometimes it feels like your child isn't listening, or you're getting to repeat yourself countlessly or all day, or you're either shouting or giving up. So today I want to be very clear that gentle parenting is not and does not mean permissive parenting, right? You can be calm and firm. You can be very loving and set boundaries, right? Now let's talk about how as a parent you can achieve all of that. What does gentle parenting mean? Now, gentle parenting is often misunderstood. Gentle parenting does not mean there are no rules. It doesn't mean there are no routines. It doesn't mean there are no boundaries, right? It doesn't mean there are no consequences for actions. It doesn't mean you're letting your children run around the household however they like. And it doesn't mean you're not raising your voice, right? Gentle parenting means respectful communication, all right? Respectful communication, emotional regulation, clear and consistent boundaries, teaching and not punishing. I want to believe you've watched my previous video on the difference between discipline and punishment. Yeah. So children feel safest when adults are predictable, not permissive. All right. Now, why? Let's talk about boundaries a little bit. Why do we think that children need boundaries? Of course, they need boundaries because it helps them to feel secure. It teaches them what is safe, right? Boundaries help them understand limits, and of course, understand that there are limits to everything, which will even help them create boundaries for themselves, right? If they don't grow up in an environment where boundaries exist, they will not be able to create boundaries, even personal boundaries, as they grow up. Boundaries reduce anxiety for children. It doesn't, it helps solve confusion on, what to do, what am I to do, and what am I not to do. And of course, it builds trust in adults, right? A child who has no boundaries is not free. You might think a child who doesn't have boundaries is free. No, child is not free. The child is very, very overwhelmed. The child is confused. The child doesn't have any direction, doesn't know what he or she is doing. Children don't need adults who are scared of upsetting them. They need adults who can lead calmly. So we're going to talk a little bit about why shouting does not work. I'm sure a lot of parents will be looking at me and be like, what? Yes, shouting does not work. Let's talk honestly about shouting. Shouting may stop a behavior at the moment or get that immediate compliance. If you watch my previous video, you would understand this better. But long term, it's going to teach fear, all right, in the child. It's going to escalate power struggles. It's going to model emotional dysregulation because, I mean, for you to be shouting, what it means is that you as a parent are not regulating your own emotions. So how would you expect your child to regulate his or her emotions when he's in an environment, or he or she is in an environment where there's always shouting? Like, imagine if you're always shouting, not only at your children, but at anything over the phone with your husband, as a mother, or, as a father with your wife or friends or whatever. The child will be confused and wondering, okay, maybe this is actually how to communicate, which is obviously not. So shouting, it models emotional dysregulation because I mean, if you can imagine a child growing up in an environment where mommy has to shout to get things done, daddy has to shout for things to be done at home, then what do you think if they're asked outside what's the method of getting things done? They'll definitely say by shouting. So in other words, they are also going to to take on that behavior they're seeing from you, because to them that's how to get things done, right? And of course, it's going to model emotional dysregulation, because I mean, for them, that means if you don't give them what they want, or if things don't go their way, they will shout, because they feel like if they shout, it's going to get done. Because I mean, that's what mommy does, right? And it damages attachment when overused, right? It's not about guilt, but I know every parent shouts sometimes. Sometimes we might get to that point where we raise our voices at our children, all right? But like I said, it's about how you communicate, all right? The goal is not perfection, it's about repair and consistency, all right? So we're going to talk a little bit about how to set boundaries without shouting, of course. I'm sure a lot of people will be like, Helen, you think it's that easy? Trust me, I'm not saying it's easy. And like I said, it's not about perfection. All right. If you train yourself to not shout, or to be gentle in your parenting, you actually get used to it, and you see that it's better, right? Now, how do we set boundaries without shouting? Be very clear and specific. Children are very inquisitive. Children are usually like, okay, you're telling me to not do this. You need to tell me why I shouldn't do it. A lot of times, or a lot of parents, give instructions to their children, and there's this thing, where I come from, and how we're growing up, it was always do as I say and don't do as I do. And you'll see that children of nowadays are more intelligent and more inquisitive, and they'll be like, okay, you don't want me to do this, daddy, why are you doing it? You don't want me to do this, mommy, why are you doing this? So you need to be very clear and specific about the boundaries you are creating or you are setting. Like, I'm going to give like an example about a situation in the home. So let's say your child is being naughty. Instead of stop it, you say things like, I need you to sit on the chair and keep your hands to yourself. That's you being firm and gentle, but you're setting you're creating this boundary, and you're very specific about what you want the child to do. So you're telling the child to stop it, probably because the child is being naughty or whatever, and the child is like, you and I know that's not a clear language. It's not a clear communication. So you can say things like, I need you to sit down and put your hands to yourself. So the child knows that, okay, mom is saying I should sit down and put my hands to myself, right? Children cannot follow instructions that are not clear. And of course, I mean, they are very inquisitive these days, so they're going to ask you over and over, what do you mean by that? Follow through calmly, all right? If you set boundaries, you must follow through. Calm consequences are more powerful than angry threats. For example, you can throw the toy or you can keep it. If you throw it again, I'll put it away. All right? Then do exactly that. You don't say it and walk away. You say it and do what you have said you will do. Separate emotion from behavior. You can validate feelings without accepting unsafe behavior. Like validating your children's feelings. I've discussed that in my previous videos, or one of my previous videos, that every child has emotions, right? Every child is their own person. A child can be angry, a child can be sad, a child can feel scared, a child can feel unsafe, scared, and all of that. Validate their emotions. It's okay for a child to get angry. It's about you teaching the child how to manage that emotion or regulate that emotion. It's okay for a child to be angry at you. I mean, like, if the child is probably playing video game and you want the child to probably do house chores or do something else, the child can get angry. So it's okay to be angry, but you set those boundaries, right? You can tell the child it's okay to feel angry. It's okay, right? And you can also tell a child it's not okay to hit. So separate emotion from behavior. When you're speaking to a child about his feelings, validate his feelings. Well, it's okay to get angry, but it's not okay to hit because you are angry, right? You teach the child about regulating his emotions and give like alternatives of what the child can do if he feels angry, sad, scared, unsafe, or any of the emotions. Right. Regulate yourself first. Children borrow our nervous system, and I've said it in one of my videos about tantrums. The way we react to things, at home, trust me, it's the same way your child will react to things, right? Be able to regulate yourself, even when a child is naughty. Be able to regulate yourself. I know sometimes, children can be so naughty that we might be spontaneous in our response. However, we just need to try and regulate our emotions as well. If you feel overwhelmed because of what your children are doing, be calm, pause, leave the room if you have to, breathe, lower your voice intentionally. As in, just be intentional about lowering your voice. Trust me, it works, right? A calm adult can de escalate faster than a loud one. Because, when your children are doing what they're doing and they see that you're calm about the situation, they will be calm. Children borrow from let me put it in our kind of term. They get our vibes, right? And they borrow our vibes. Now, the kind of vibe you're giving your child is the kind of vibe you're going to get from that child. Okay? Now, we're going to talk about what to do when you get it wrong. It's okay to get it wrong. You don't always have to be that perfect parent. But like I've said in my previous videos, and I'm going to say here, it's always good to be an intentional parent, right? You can always speak to your child and say, look, I shouted earlier, that wasn't okay. You need to admit and take responsibility for your own actions as well, because it teaches the child to take responsibility. So when you feel you shouted and you know that you were not meant to, you can go to the child and say, I shouted earlier, it's not okay, right? I was feeling overwhelmed and I'm sorry. You apologize. That way you are teaching the child how to behave. A lot of people are going to be like, really? Yeah. Look, your child is his own person or her own person. Like, you can imagine someone offending you or doing something to you and saying, I'm sorry. It goes a long way. So even as a parent, why can't you say it to your child? Like, how hard can it be? Accepting responsibility and also apologizing or having this conversation teaches the child accountability. It teaches the child emotional honesty, because obviously you talk to the child and tell the child how you felt at the time that made you raise your voice or made you shout, right? And it creates safety in relationships, really, because your child will know that, okay, you're shouting, oh, this is unusual of mom. However, after whatever, you go to the child and you have that conversation, say, I shouted earlier, I was really, really overwhelmed, I apologize. It goes a long way. And in my line of work, I've said this, time and time again to parents, that going to your child, having that conversation and apologizing for your actions goes a very, very long way. Sit down with your child, speak to your child, say, look, this my behavior or these things I've done or I did to hurt you or make you feel unsafe. I am sorry. Right? I might not have gotten it right, but I'm here to learn. Trust me, it creates safety in relationship. It will help your child. It goes a very, very long way. I know it's very difficult for parents to apologize to their children. I don't know why. Because for me, it's very easy for me. I say I'm sorry when I raise my voice. It's how difficult can it be really? But like I said, we need to, unlearn some certain things to relearn. Right? Now, gentle parenting is not about being soft. It's about being secure. It's about being calm, consistent, emotionally available, and willing to lead. Sometimes, with the jobs we do, work and all of that, sometimes we're not even emotionally available for our children. So when probably you go to work, you come back, you're tired or you're stressed out, and your child, it's naughty or something, and you just scream your lungs out and go to your bedroom and shut the door and whatever. That's not being emotionally available. It's how do I put it? It's not easy, but like I said, parenting is intentional. Just as marriage is intentional, parenting is intentional. You just have to put in the work. It's not like your everyday, as it comes. You have to be intentional about what you do every day when it comes to your parenting. Every day you think about what you think about what you did the previous day and what you can do differently to improve your parenting. And like I said, children thrive when you're calm. Like, try it. Give yourself 1 week. If you're not the calm and gentle parenting kind of person, give yourself 1 week and be gentle for 1 week, and just test it. Be calm, be consistent. I'm not saying you should not be firm. Be firm when you make your statements, or when you communicate with your children about boundaries. You can be firm. You don't have to shout, right? Be emotionally available. Sometimes children throw tantrums because they want that attention. And that's how children respond to care. I always tell people, a child's behavior is a response to the kind of care the child receives. If you're not emotionally available for your child will do something to make you available. It's as simple as that. That's how children are. That's part of the psychology of children. When they have parents that are not available, your child will make you available by force. If you're not emotionally available for your child will go to school and misbehave because you will be called. And that work that is very important, you will leave it and come back to probably take your child home or have a meeting with the head teacher or whatever as the case may be. But when you are emotionally available for your child, trust me, you won't have issues. Don't just, your child is naughty today. You shout, go to work, do this, do your thing, blah, blah, blah. Trust me, that child will not get better. The child will keep on seeking your attention, because sometimes children are naughty because they are seeking your attention. So when your child is consistently or constantly naughty or badly behaved, check your parenting. Check yourself. Reflect. Have I been emotionally available to this child? And obviously, do what you need to do to, be emotionally available. And of course, you should be willing to lead. What is it to lead? To lead is to serve. You can't be living your life in a certain way and expect your child to live his or her own or her life in a different way. It doesn't work. Leadership is always by example. Your children watch you. They look at the way you interact with your spouse. They look at the way you interact with people around you. That's the way they're going to interact with people. So please, when it comes to parenting as well, there are a lot of unspoken words. I'm going to have a topic about unspoken words and in parenting. That's going to be one of my topics, because there are a lot of things parents don't really understand when it comes to modeling for children. All right. I just hope that this topic has really driven home my point and has made you understand that gentle parenting is not permissive parenting, is not weak parenting. All right. You can be calm and firm. You can set boundaries and set consequences and follow through with them. All right. Without shouting, without screaming on top of your voice. Thank you for watching till the end of this video. If you like this video, please subscribe, share to people that you feel like would need to watch this video. And until next week, when I come again with a different topic, thank you so much for watching. Bye.